I love a sunburned country, a land of sweeping plains, of ragged mountain ranges, of droughts and flooding rains. I love her far horizons. I love her jewel sea, her beauty and her terror. The wide brown land for me.
Well, that's the poetry. Now for the motion, WRC style. I'm Kevin Piper. Welcome to New South Wales for round 10 of the 2013 World Rally Championship. Coates Hire Rally Australia, one of the most spectacular events of the season. We're down under with a man on a mission. Sébastien Ogier could become world champion right here, right now.
It's possible this weekend, but for that we'll have to do a good job.
Opportunity knocks for Chris Meek, hoping to prove he's worth a full-time drive in the WRC.
You have to surprise people to turn some heads, to make people say, yeah, maybe this guy can do something.
Extreme caution required in these parts. Hazards come in all shapes and sizes.
I've seen a very big snake on the recce, so it's a bit scary. I don't like them too much, so especially if they are able to kill you, and they are.
Well, hopefully they'll stay clear of the local wildlife as the action unfolds on this, the latest stop on our global tour. Venturing outside Europe once again as we return to gravel after the tarmac of Germany. It's comfortably our longest trip of the season, but there's plenty to do and see down under. The drivers taking a pre-rally sightseeing tour in Sydney, including a walk up and over the famous Harbour Bridge. Sébastien Ogier arrives in Australia with a lead of 75 points in the title race. If he extends that to 84 points here in New South Wales, he'll become the first new world champion in a decade after Sébastien Loeb's 9-year domination of the sport. It's much closer in the Manufacturers' Championship. Citroën taking the fight back to Volkswagen with their strong performance at Rally Deutschland, reducing the gap to just 26 points. That battle should continue to the end of the season. Still all to play for then as they head for rally headquarters some 500 kilometres north of Sydney in the coastal resort of Coffs Harbour, from where the crews will tackle 22 special stages over 350 competitive kilometres, mainly in the local bush. The return to gravel means the return of qualifying, a short run to determine starting order for Friday's Oakland stages. Road sweeping likely to be an issue on these dusty tracks. And its championship leader Ogier setting the early pace, but then a big surprise, as Ogier is outpaced by none other than Chris Meek, 3/10 quicker through the 5.5 kilometre test. That's Meek earns the first pick of road position. Decides to start back in 10th place, last of the elite WRC teams, hoping to benefit from hitting the racing line and more grip, courtesy of the earlier runners clearing the roads. Local driver Nathan Quinn dealing with the worst of the slippery gravel. He's first, followed by Khalid Al-Qasimi, the quickest qualifiers, not surprisingly, opting to start as far back as possible. Thierry Neuville, 8th, Ogier 9th, just ahead of Meek. A traditional greeting in Coffs Harbour town centre. Thousands of rally fans turning up to meet the teams, extending a warm welcome to the WRC as ever. A big few days for all concerned, not least Sébastien Ogier, about to embark on an event that could well see him taking his place in the sports history books. After 2 short sprint stages around the service park on Thursday evening, Friday's first full day of action features a series of brand new stages, each run twice. Newry the longest at just under 25 kilometres, sure to be a steep learning curve on the fast-flowing gravel tracks of New South Wales. A first test for those new pace notes then on these stages. Aussie Nathan Quinn at least has the benefit of local knowledge as we join him at the start line, watched by Paul King.
Thank you, Kevin. Let the battle in the bush commence. Nathan's had just 40 kilometres of testing in this mini. This will be a real baptism of fire for the Aussie. And our first chance to take a look at this new stage. Long sweeper for Quinn to fling the mini around. You can see how much loose gravel is on the road for these early runners. This will be a wild ride for the local lad. Even running 5th on the road is not an ideal position for Mikko Hirvonen. You can see the trail of loose dust in his wake from our eye in the sky. But this is why we love coming to the Australian bush. It's simply breathtaking scenery. The Finn arrives in Australia with real pedigree, a winner here on the last 3 visits. And this has been a bullish display from Mikko. The Citroen man fastest so far, more than 9 seconds. And here is our champion-elect, Sébastien Ogier. The Frenchman won't worry about the maths involved in securing the title. Ogier can't do anything about those that follow, but take the win here in New South Wales, and Seb will take a big step to that first world title. 2.9 seconds quicker than Hirvonen in here. Ogier takes the provisional lead. The man of the moment is safely through, but what an important weekend this is too for Chris Meek. A bit of a nudge against the bank there. Meek driving on the edge early on. Crisis averted with the road verge used to get the car straightened up. But he was fortunate there was nothing more solid lying roadside. Chris needs to impress in Australia, but also needs to avoid too many more moments like that. The British star proved in Finland he has the pace in Australia. He has to show he can produce a clean rally in one of the most technically challenging events of the season. It's a strong start for the man who won qualifying, just 4.5 seconds off the pace of the championship leader.
I'm here to finish this rally. I'm not here to go charging for the win, so it's only my first ever event in a proper factory team, so hey, steady on.
Wise words from Meek, but an all too familiar look at the top of the leaderboard. Sébastien Ogier out in front, 3.3 seconds up on Mikko Hirvonen. Andreas Mikkelsen third, with Meek a solid 4th, but it's early days. All the same, an encouraging start for Chris Meek, who's very much driving for his future here. Experienced, but desperate for a full-time drive in the WRC. Handed the chance to prove himself by Citroen after an impressive drive in Finland earlier this season.
To be honest, at the stage in my career when you get one opportunity like that, to a certain degree you have to surprise people, to turn some heads, to make people say, yeah, maybe this guy can do something. So yeah, I really had to be so determined in Finland to try to show my speed at that level. In Unampoja, I felt really nice. It felt so good. And quite close to the finish, it was narrow with some ruts, and just as I turned in, the car bottomed on some ruts and put me just on the loose, 6 inches outside the corner, and yeah. I think I had to be judged over the full week and my approach to it, and yeah, luckily for me it was enough to warrant this opportunity in Australia.
Meek's replacing tarmac specialist Danny Sordo here in Australia, ironically on the back of the Spaniard's long-awaited first ever WRC victory in Germany.
He's been a good friend of mine, and he's been so close for so many times, and yeah, he done what Danny does in Germany. He was so consistent, and even when the conditions got really difficult, he just really, he kept the tempo up, and now puts Citroen back in contention for the manufacturers. So yeah, it makes it even more important for me to do a good job here in Australia. Unfortunately for Danny, I showed some good speed in Finland and Danny was not so fast, so yeah, that's life, and we all have to accept it and move forward. You know?
Danny did something very important in Germany with taking this victory. Now we are waiting a little bit what will happen here with all the drivers. I'm looking to maybe 7 or 8 drivers for next year, and after Australia for sure I will make a short list.
If you look at the big picture, it's nice to be getting the opportunities at this time of the season when everyone's thinking for next year. So at least I have a steering wheel in my hands to show what I can do. It's more difficult when you're trying to talk to people when you don't have a steering wheel to operate. And so yeah, I have to try and let my driving do the talking.
Chris Meek's future then very much in his own hands. How will he rise to the challenge down under? We'll find out very shortly with more spectacular action from here in New South Wales. Australia, population around 40 million, and that's just the kangaroos, twice the number of humans. Some of them can hop around 90 kilometres an hour, the kangaroos that is, and that's roughly half the speed of a World Rally car flying through the gravel tracks of New South Wales here at Rally Australia, where Sébastien Ogier is the early leader with a real chance of becoming the world champion this weekend. A long way to go though, as we join his teammate Andreas Mikkelsen in stage 4, watched by Paul.
A big kicker for Andreas there, Kevin, with an injury to his regular co-driver Mikko Markkula, forcing VW's young Norwegian out of Rally Deutschland. Mikkelsen's drafted in Irishman Paul Nagel as a replacement.
Short, wide right, left.
Oh, but he should have gone left there. Andreas has shot up an access road. Thankfully, disaster has been averted. Let's take a look at that again. The stage goes off to the left. Has to take evasive action up the access road. It shows you how important accurate pace notes are. And then to add insult to injury, he gets lost in his own dust trail. Well, such mistakes are to be expected, particularly as the pair adjust to their new set of pace notes.
We came quite fast over left hand over crest, and the pace nose on the recce was a little bit too positive. So I need to take an escape road, and yeah, after that it was so dusty, so I need to wait there for 20 seconds to see where I was going, because I didn't have a clue.
Nagel has been a regular co-driver to Chris Meek, but they are rivals this weekend. What a start it's been for Meek on his own Australia debut. Replacing Danny Sordo for this event, the Northern Irishman relished this opportunity.
Right hand,
oh, but a
fully right.
Huge rock in the racing line there. Meek had no way of avoiding it. Remarkably, the DS3 seems to have survived that collision with a fairly hefty chunk of New South Wales, and a good job too, with Meek back up to second.
I hit a massive stone on line in the middle of a corner, and I totally lost the steering wheel out of my hands. I thought I had broken the wheel, but thankfully it's a strong car, and we're still here. But then for the second half of the stage, I was struggling to commit to my normal rhythm, just because in case there's something pulled out on the line, because that gives you a little bit of a fright, but okay.
Rally leader Sébastien Ogier will hope to avoid such rocky adventures with 3 stage wins out of 3 this morning. Couldn't have been a better start for the Volkswagen star.
It certainly couldn't. 8.8 seconds now between Ogier and a rather relieved Chris Meek, who survived his rocky ride through stage 5. Hervener, though, is now just 0.2 of a second behind in 3rd. And confirmation there that although Mikkelsen and Nagel had their own lucky escape, they have slipped from 4th to 6th. Well, pace notes are always likely to be an issue on these new stages, leading to 1 or 2 inevitable problems, not least that off for Mikkelsen and co-driver Paul Nagel, who now reflects on what went wrong.
It was a 6 left, half long, which is 6 gear, and it tightens to turn minus, which is just a 6 gear as well, but we've changed it to a 5 to slow down the angle of the corner. So just to slow it down for the next run.
Well, this event's a particularly demanding challenge for Nagel and Mikkelsen, working together for the first time here in Australia because of injury to Mikkelsen's regular co-driver, Mikko Markkula. It's a new partnership then, but they know each other pretty well.
I'm not sure when the first time met, but it was in Ireland.
He was a child rallying in Ireland.
Child with no brains and not afraid of anything. Obviously knowing Paul since I was 17, we always got along great on the rallies, and I know Paul is a really good co-driver, and he's been with Chris Meek for the last couple of years, and you know, he has what it takes to, and he knows what it's all about at the peak of the sport.
Well, until this season, Mikkelson's pace notes had been called in his native Norwegian. By happy coincidence, he'd already decided to switch to English for this year.
English is a language we both speak together, and for me, okay, it's not the mother tongue, but at the same time, I think these days I speak more English than I do my own language.
He's got better English than I have.
Well, Irish is not so bad for me. When he's reading notes, it's not so strong accent, so it's really easy to understand and clear, which is nice when you need to take the information in at 200 kilometers per hour.
50. 5 right minus, opens long, extra long, over crest.
Every driver, as I said, has different techniques and different styles, and I think that the Scandinavians have a lot of these longs and extra longs and all these things. They're new compared to what I'd have at home.
But they're good, they're working very well.
Extra long, how long is extra long? I'm not sure yet, but it is long.
So they get along well enough and clearly have faith in each other. Now it's just a question of seeing how quickly the new partnership can gel.
Stages are very, very fast, especially on Sunday. They're really, really, really fast. And every day is different, but you just have to be careful and watch out for the snakes.
Because we have seen snakes.
We have a snake in one of the pace notes.
So snakes and other obstacles duly marked up. Let's now see how those amended pace notes fare as we return to the action with our second pass through Tucker's Knob. Our stage of the day, remember, the spotlight on a 1.3 kilometre section right at the end of the stage, an undulating flowing blast through the trees as they power on towards the flying finish.
Thanks, Kevin. And first up in our isolated section, we will follow Mikko Hirvonen, just 0.2 of a second behind the runner-up spot, occupied by Chris Meek. Just look at this view up ahead. This is why we've chosen the final sector of our stage of the day to focus on. Nice flat through these fast-flowing bends. Mikko balancing the throttle with precision as he carries the speed from corner to corner. Jarno Leitinen's notes will have been finessed for this pass. Remember, this is only the second time this stage has been driven in anger. Mikko did a 5:30.8 through here this morning. And that's 7 seconds quicker than the first pass. A good run from Hirvonen. He is quickest through so far.
It feels tougher than in the morning. I think they do a really good time, and now the dust starts to be a problem. Now when the wind is gone, there's lots of dust in places, so maybe it's in our advance that it's going to be worse behind, but I'm a bit afraid of the next stages, that it's even more in the forest. It might not be good.
And taking another look at Hirvonen through the first corner of our selected sequence from our high motion camera, just locking up the rear wheels as he hits the loose gravel. If you stray even slightly offline through these slippery stages, traction really hard to come by through this deep gravel. Now here is that new partnership of Mikkelsen and Nagel. The Irishman reeling out the detailed pace notes that they've worked so hard on during the pre-event recce.
40 line, 5 left minus, 60, short, 5 right minus.
Lots of unseen crests ahead over this undulating terrain. Mikkelsen utterly reliant on Nagel's every word.
50, that's right 80. Short 6 left over crest, 20, cut 5 left plus, opens over small crest, 100, twist, cut 5 left plus and crest, and 4 right minus.
That one overshoot earlier aside, it's been a strong start for the pair. Let's see what they can do through this stage. Hirvonen still with the time to beat.
Over finished, 30.
A 5:25.7, 2.2 seconds slower than Hirvonen, but that also beats their own time through here from this morning by 7 seconds. Back to Mikkelsen's VW teammate Sebastian Ogier. A simply stunning start to the day for the championship leader. Chased hard by our eye in the sky as he approaches the final kilometre. That stage time of 5 minutes 23.5 seconds. And the clock is ticking.
Gauche 140 millions à fond, corde qui ouvre pour un droite 150 cordes et 80 mètres, attention, gauche 155 cordes en ciel.
Right on the limit again, despite the close proximity of the trees, approaching 200 kilometres an hour. This is brave driving, considering what is at stake. Let's see how he compares through this stage compared to Hirvonen. 5:23.5, the time he's aiming for.
Droite 130, moins 1 million de cordes. 50 mètres, droite 130, 1 million de cordes. Arrivé.
Wow, what a drive again from Ogier. 2.7 seconds quicker than Mikko. And like the Finn, Ogier locking up the rear wheels at this left-hander. The Frenchman in full high motion glory. Quite some sight out here in the Australian bushland.
A fourth straight stage win for Sébastien Ogier. Behind him, Hirvonen was quicker than Chris Meek through our stage of the day. The Finn now moves up into second, just 0.4 of a second between the two though. Andreas Mikkelsen remains outside the top 5 just, then it's Yevgeny Novikov and Jari-Matti Latvala with plenty to do. If he's to trouble the front runners, he's down in 8th. The teams now on their way to stage 7 via a 20-kilometre road section that passes through the normally sleepy country town of Bellingen. Like all other road users, these high-performance WRC cars are subject to the laws of the highway when travelling between stages. Always a fascinating sight. And always with a close eye on the clock. The crews must arrive at their next control point at their allotted time to avoid any penalties. Not too early, not too late. Which is duly achieved, but there's trouble lying in wait as we head for the second run through Bellingen.
And Kevin, the battle lines have been drawn as the WRC's finest return to action. Ogier still leads, but it remains tight at the top, just over 12 seconds between the top 3 at the moment. Khalid Al-Qasimi achieved his best ever result of 5th in New South Wales 2 years ago. And it's been another solid drive from the Emirati through these tough forest roads. The Abu Dhabi Citroën team driver into the point-scoring places by the end of the day. Mads Osberg is one of a number of debutants down under who's struggled to deal with the unpredictable grip in challenging technical stages. Whoa, and he'll get a face full of dust with that big slide. He whacked a rock on the side of the Fiesta too. Mads' moment is survived, but the M-Sport man dicing with danger in this afternoon loop.
We were lucky. It was big rock and it had big effect on the car when I hit it. The door opened, we almost went off the road into the tree, so very lucky. I don't know what a stone like this is doing in the middle of the road, but well, yeah, it's a good thing I hit it sideways. If I hit it with the front, that would be it.
Well, they say this event is wild by nature, and that is why. One of the beneficiaries of Osberg's bumpy ride through stage 8 is this man, Jari-Matti Latvala. Poor qualifying performance has left the VW star fighting through the worst of the loose gravel. It's the 3rd car on the road, but there have finally been signs of life from the talented Finn, for the stalling up 2 places to 5th in stage 8. For Latvala's compatriot Mikko Hirvonen, in contrast, the opening day has probably been his finest display of the season to date. With the most technically demanding roads of the event out of the way, the 3-time Australia winner will do all he can to keep the runaway leader honest over the following 2 days. And here is the man who's utterly dominated the opening exchanges down under. Sébastien Ogier looks like a man in utter control of his destiny, with his closest championship challenger Thierry Neuville currently outside the podium positions. If he maintains his control at the top spot, the Frenchman will claim his and Volkswagen's first world title in Coffs Harbour on Sunday afternoon.
It's all going very much to plan then for Sébastien Ogier, winning every stage so far today on his way to establishing a comfortable overnight lead. He's ahead of Herbenen, and then Chris Meek. Laval's late surge sees him move up to 5th, overtaking Osberg after his encounter with that stone. But there was late drama come the final super special sprint back at Coffs. Chris Meek here at the start line.
4, 3, 2, 1, go.
And a stall costing him 10 seconds and 3rd place, slipping behind Thierry Neuville on the final run of the day. An unfortunate end to an otherwise promising day for the British driver, while the champion-elect moves closer to that world title, providing he can stay out of trouble. There's high drama ahead here in Australia. Hold on tight, we'll be back with the full bone-jarring story in just a moment. Australia, self-styled lucky nation where they simply love the outside life, and who can blame them with views like this? The east coast of New South Wales, setting for round 10 of the World Rally Championship. We are at the midway point of Coates Hire Rally Australia, Saturday, day 3. 6 more tests in and around the resort of Coffs Harbour. The biggest challenge, Nambucca, at just under 50 kilometres. It's the longest stage of the event. The first run through this morning will be our stage of the day, where we'll be focusing on some of the key contenders through a selected stretch of road. Let's take a closer look, courtesy of the WRC Eye in the Sky. Our featured split sections, a stretch of predominantly fast, smooth, undulating gravel. The first of our front runners is the informed Belgian, Thierry Neuville.
And we join Thierry heading towards our isolated split. Already hitting speeds in excess of 150 kilometers an hour in the Fiesta RS. Now split time clock starting at the white post on the left. A huge cut there, no hesitation from Neuville. The WRC tyres in suspension, easily absorbing the roadside rough. Incredible traction despite the loose gravel. These four-wheel drive 350 brake horsepower machines simply gliding over a surface that would have a road car flying off the road. Over the crest, the split end to the Coffs Coast side. This half a kilometre covered in the blink of an eye. When the young Belgian finds his flow, he is frighteningly quick. Chris Meek and Chris Patterson are next into our split section. Let's start the clock, look out for the white post. Citroen's British star begins the day in 4th, just half a second behind Neuville after that costly stall in the Coffs Harbour Super Special. This blisteringly quick run through our isolated split will give us an idea how this fight is developing. Oh, big cut over the bank there. End of our split coming up, 2/10 lost in that 500-metre section. All very tight though between Meek and Neuville, and using our high motion camera we can analyse the two drivers' different approaches through that left-hander that Meek cut so dramatically. The Brit with all 4 wheels off the road, 2 actually leaving the ground. It is spectacular to watch, but the clock doesn't lie. With Neuville keeping the rubber on the gravel, he's able to keep the power down throughout the corner. And so, to the rally leader, Sébastien Ogier, relentless in his quest to secure the world title here in New South Wales. The split time clock is ticking. Pace notes fired off from the ever reliable Julien Ingracia. Let's take a moment to watch the VW crew do what they do best. Half a kilometre of blisteringly quick Aussie gravel cleared in 25 seconds dead. Ogier on course to maintain his stranglehold on the top spot. And the Frenchman with a slightly different line again past our high motion camera. He's actually already got the car turning before the corner. You can see the cleared line of grippier gravel ahead as well. And the Polo are swinging like a pendulum as the approach to the following corner is set up as well. Confirmation that Ogier was fastest through our isolated split, but just 0.4 of a second between the top three, as you'd expect through such a short section. Further up in the stage, meanwhile, unsurprisingly, the 50 kilometres of Nambucca have served up plenty more action. Jari-Matti Latvala floundered in the gravel on day one, but Saturday's fast-flowing stages should suit his flamboyant driving style. Finn is pushing. Oh, but a really wild moment immediately after the finish boards to sign that Jari is building a more aggressive approach today.
We had a spun at the after flying finish, so which is a bit unusual, but it was a very slippy the bridge at the finish line, so we lost a little bit the rear, but everything okay. So, but generally, it was very hot inside the car.
Jari, the master of the understatement there, Latvala's compatriot. Mikko Hirvonen, meanwhile, is loving his run out here in the Australian bush, an event he's won 3 times in a row. He's 20 seconds behind the leader in second. He is perfectly poised to pounce should Ogier falter. He's actually a second ahead of the rally leader at the 32-kilometre split time. But living with the pace of the championship leader is a dangerous game. Mikko soon reminded who's in charge.
Mikko, it's hot work in 50 Ks. How was that? It's a good time.
Yeah, it's a good time, but it feels a bit like Ogier is playing with us. You know, we were 1 second behind, 1 second ahead, 1 second behind. Then I made a mistake, nearly went off. I was 3 seconds behind. Towards the end of the stage, it was really, really slippy, really sliding a lot, so it was not the best rhythm in the end.
Ogier then giving them the runaround by all accounts. His lead over Hirvonen, now more than 25 seconds. Neuville came out on top in the battle for third. Chris Meek now 2.7 seconds behind him. But the Brit certainly giving a good account of himself in his attempt to persuade Citroën he's the man for them next season. This, remember, only the second time he's driven the DS3 in anger, and he's doing a good job. Quickest in qualifying, now just outside the podium positions. His mission here is to stay out of trouble and to bring home valuable points for the team.
Middle over crest 60, stop, right over crest 30, long 3 left. 50. 6 right over crest, 450. Keep right into crest, slowing, 4 left minus stop, long 2 right.
It's such an important event for Meek as he hopes to clinch that drive for next season.
There's no pressure on me, only pressure I put on myself, and yeah, we have to keep everything neat and tidy and see where we are tomorrow afternoon.
So safety first for Meek. He knows what's at stake. Out in front, Sébastien Ogier continuing to make serene progress on his way to that maiden world title. So just over halfway through Rally Australia, Ogier continuing to edge away from Hirvonen. And in the fight for third, the gap between Neuville and Meek, that's also increased. It's up to 8 seconds now. Okay, time for our second pass through Nambucca.
Yes, back to the longest stage of the rally, just under 50 kilometres of tree-line terror await. And here is Thierry Neuville, completely crossed up over that jump. Incredible car control from the Belgian to recover the Fiesta before he ploughed off into the trees. He's having to push to keep Meek behind. That's worth another look from inside the car. For a second, it looked as though Neuville had lost control. The 25-year-old's reflexes instant and instinctive. See how close the trees were to the edge of the road if he did go off. It looked frightening, but barely a blink from the Belgian inside the car. Chris Meek has stuck to his task well, stating he's got no interest in getting involved in a dangerous dice with Thierry. But the Brit is asking questions in here. 1.2 seconds up on the Belgian at the 20-kilometre split time.
3 big, 460, into left over crest 60, early 6 right over crest, okay, 100, slowing over crest 80, stop, 2 right minus. And...
Oh, Chris, that's too fast.
Come on.
That is devastating for the Citroën star. A dramatic, terrifying roll. He's ended up on 4 wheels. The Brits' first instinct is to restart the car. Unsurprisingly, though, that is a terminally damaged DS3. Chris out to take a look.
Daniel from Chris, we are off the road. I will call you shortly.
Chris Patterson relaying the bad news to the team. Taking another look from inside the car. It may have been a slow speed roll, but the two Chris's feeling the washing machine effect. And the Citroen's safety shell, as ever, surviving incredible forces. The battered DS3 will go no further, with Citroen's bid to retain the manufacturer's title at stake, not to mention his own future career. That is a bitter, bitter pill for Meek to swallow.
Into a second gear corner, I just arrived 5 or 10 k's an hour too much and thought I got away with it, and it just slipped off the road. It nearly stopped, and unfortunately there was a very steep bank down into the field, and it just kept tumbling. So a very slow accident, but hey, an accident's an accident, and same result, unfortunately.
Frustration and disappointment for Chris Meek. His 4th place now taken by Jari-Matti Latvala. And that's bad news for Citroen. Their grasp on the manufacturer's title is weakened. Let's hear what the boss has to say about it all.
First of all, Yves, the important thing is that Chris and his co-driver are unhurt.
Yes, okay. They rolled, it seems, several times, but the car, I saw some pictures, it's not so damaged, but for sure it's finished for today.
What is the situation for Chris Meek and Citroen now?
I don't know. I will speak with him first, and I will take a decision after. But for sure, he did not do what I asked him.
Well, you can't help but feel for Chris Meek. It had been going so well, but now left to contemplate the implications of that big off. As for the rest, well, the show, as they say, must go on.
It must indeed, as we move on to the day's final stage in the Australian bush. And this is Mads Osberg, the man chasing 4th spot. The Australia rookie struggled with his new set of pace notes on day 1, but has looked more composed on the second leg, sweeping roads. I may have spoken too soon. Mads offline and off the road. Getting the car restarted, but that 20-second delay does more than dent his pursuit of Latvala. It also allows his compatriot Andreas Mikkelsen to nudge him down to 6th.
Yeah, we went wide in one corner, and just going onto tarmac, there was a lot of gravel on the tarmac, and it was a lot more slippery than I thought. And I just went wide into the ditch, and we hit something, spun around, and it was yeah, quite interesting. Not good at all.
No such problems for rally leader Ogier, winning every stage today, stretching his lead to more than 45 seconds now. Mika Hovland stays in second, with Thierry Neuville set to continue his run of podium finishes. Over the page, Mads Osberg slips down to 6th after his latest off-road excursion. But it has been a performance worthy of a champion from Ogier, now just one day from lifting that world title.
I know that's something great waiting for me, but after 125 k's more.
Migrating humpback whales off the coast of New South Wales. The wonders never cease, quite literally, on the WRC's visit down under, where Sébastien Ogier is basking in anticipated glory. Just 6 stages, 125 kilometres between the Frenchman and sporting acclaim, including 2 runs through the 29 kilometres of Shipmans. The first is our stage of the day, the second, the all-important power stage, where bonus points could yet play a big part in proceedings. Are we about to witness the crowning of a new world champion? Let's find out now with Paul.
A day of seismic proportions ahead then, and a busy schedule to come. We start with Bucker and Wedding Bells. And we have a fight for position to keep an eye on over these flat-out forest roads. In the battle of the Norwegians, Mads Osberg starts the final morning, just 2.5 seconds behind his young compatriot Andreas Mikkelsen. Hanging dust around, but Osberg looking determined out there as he pushes on to break into the top 5. here is the man Osberg is chasing. Nicholson alongside stand-in co-driver Paul Nagel has had a solid run on his Australia debut and under pressure to stay on the road and take manufacturer points away from the restarting Chris Meek. 5th place is conceded in the opening stage of the day.
50, fast 4 right plus, 50, 5 left minus.
And here is the champion-elect. Sébastien Ogier probably feeling as nervous as a groom awaiting his bride today. So what better time to move on to the wedding bell stage, named after the state forest. It also features a 10-kilometre stretch that takes your breath away. Buckle up, sit back, and enjoy the ride.
Gauche en 40 tourne. Gauche en 40 tourne, 150 mètres. Attention, léger jump frein. Léger jump frein, 80 mètres. Gauche en 40 bon corde. 80 mètres, gauche en 40 bon corde. Pour un jump fast, 80 mètres. Frein droite 140, moins corde. 80 mètres, 340, moins corde.
Wedding bells cleared, 2 stages down, 4 still to go. The champagne and the honeymoon edge ever closer.
Not quite party time yet, but Ogier's advantage over Mika Hirvonen now more than 50 seconds. Thierry Neuville, the best part of half a minute behind the Finn, and confirmation Osberg has the edge in the battle of the Norwegians. He's 5th. Our next stage, Shipmans, named after a family who first settled here back in 1848, focusing on a 1.3 kilometre section through which we'll be comparing the 2 key players in this final phase of Rally Australia. Thierry Neuville, the only man who can stop Sébastien Ogier's charge towards the world title as they now prepare to attack a sequence of flat-out sweeping corners, ending with a water splash.
So with the fate of the Drivers' Championship at stake, we will focus on our top 3 runners, starting with Thierry Neuville, one man who stands between Ogier and that world title.
Long pas extérieur, ouvre et ferme 60 plus tenir. Sur 40 mètres, gauche 20 000, même pas rasé.
Our split time starts at the tree on the inside of the next corner.
Pour droite 70, tourne à fond.
Here we go.
150 mètres.
Plenty of crowds out there enjoying Rally Royalty's regal display on this final day.
Et gauche 110 star.
Neuville on course for his 5th podium finish in a row. He'll be focused on his own rally today. No need for the Belgian to concern himself with Ogier's title.
Droite 20 plus tourne, corps pas extérieur. 20 plus tourne, corps pas extérieur.
Stretch of road through the trees, cambered in places as well.
Gauche 20 000.
It's been a fine performance on Neuville's Australia debut. His only target today will be to maintain 3rd and build on his experience at these challenging roads for future years. Now 1.3 kilometre section ends at a water splash up ahead.
Sur 60 mètres, droite 40 moins tourne. Droite 40 moins tourne. Pourquet sur
Here it comes.
glisse fort.
Cleared in a time of 51.1 seconds. And a chance to take a high motion look at Neuville through the water splash. Spectacular images again in the New South Wales bushland. Mikko Hirvonen dropped a few seconds to Neuville in the previous test. It won't concern him too much. Even so, the Finn has raised his intensity again slightly here. And now we return our attention back to the rally leader.
Sur droite 134 plus corps de frein, pour gauche 90 plus. Gauche 90 plus.
Sébastien Ogier will trigger the clock as he surges into the Shipman's Forest. 51.1, that split time set by Neuville. The Frenchman will have good reason to feel apprehensive in this stage. Ogier crashed out of the lead in here 2 years ago. And with his first championship now within reach, a repeat of that outcome doesn't bear thinking about.
Droite 120 cordes, Irvo moins 3.7. Droite 120 cordes, 100 mètres, droite 6 frein, avant ciel, 50 mètres, gauche.
Nervous moments for Ogier. But Sébastien in 2013 is a very different animal to 2 years ago. This has been a faultless performance so far. Let's see how he compares to Neuville through the split. Remember, watching out for that water splash.
Droite 130 bon corde, sur un frein 40 mètres pied. Sur gauche en 18, 60 mètres.
1 second quicker. It's been another champion's performance through Shipmans. Ogier quickest through our split and quickest through the stage as well. The morning loop is complete. Ogier another step closer to the biggest prize in rally.
2 years ago, it kind of put an end to your championship bidding here. In about 3 hours' time, it could make your championship.
Yeah, could be a big difference between the disappointment of 2 years ago and hopefully the celebration in a few hours.
We shall see. With just Sunday afternoon stages to go, Ogier's lead now up to more than 53 seconds. Hirvonen in turn responding to Neville's charge, maintaining a gap between second and third of almost half a minute. Well, before the grand finale, let's just get a quick roundup of the action from the WRC2 support series. And the trip to Coffs Harbour really couldn't have gone much better for Abdul Aziz Al Khawari, the Qatari driver, inheriting the lead yesterday and staying there to take victory and regain the championship lead from Robert Kubica, who's missing this event. Well, after spinning into a bank on Saturday and dropping back to second, Ukrainian Yuri Protasov had been chasing Al Khawari today, only to suffer a puncture this afternoon and was therefore unable to close the gap. Further back by some 7 minutes, Yazid Al-Raji returning after problems on Friday and Saturday. The Saudi recovering well and taking the final podium position. So, victory for Al Khawari by 1 minute and 13 seconds ahead of Protasov, and a high attrition rate in the WRC2 here in Australia. OK, back to the main events and the prospect of World Rally history in the making as we move on to the final stage here in New South Wales. Ogier with more than a minute in hand, so close to his first WRC title.
Yes, if positions remain the same, Ogier will be crowned champion, but power stage points could yet come into play. It's the performance of this man who will decide Ogier's fate. Remember, if Thierry Neuville scores 9 points less than the rally leader in Australia, the championship will be over. The Belgian would need to finich at least second in the rally and second in the power stage to prevent Ogier taking the title here and now. Neuville doing his part in the final test. The M Sport man fastest through so far, and also ensures his 5th podium in a row. Well, Neuville has done all he can, but with this man, Mikko Hirvonen, still there in second place, it doesn't matter what the Belgian does. Hold on, just a moment though. Is this a problem for Mikko? I don't believe this. Hirvonen has picked up the puncture. This is midway through the 29-kilometre stage as well. Yeah, the left rear wheel is delaminating. Unbelievable scenes with Mikko's advantage over Neuville. Just 25 seconds coming into Shipman's. He could yet slip to third. The news beginning to filter through to the Volkswagen team back at service. And Hirvonen has lost the best part of a minute driving on the puncture. He slips to third.
I honestly, in the middle of the road all the time, I have no idea why we get a puncture. Absolutely no idea.
Hirvonen can't believe it, I can't believe it, and Ogier won't even know it yet. There is nothing the Frenchman can do but power on to the finish. But with Neuville already fastest through the power stage and sure to claim at least 2 extra points no matter what Ogier does here, the championship will not be won in Australia. Ogier into the flying finish. The rally is won, the power stage is won, but unbelievably, the Frenchman will still be 1 point shy of claiming his first world title. Ogier and Julien Ingrassia already celebrating, but they will soon find out. The wait for the championship goes on.
Congratulations to the rally, guys. Great performance, but Hirvonen had a problem, so Neuville is second and second on the power stage. It will be tough for this time.
Well, the team have sent the news to Ogier. A shrug from the Frenchman. He did all he could. Another flawless performance from Ogier in New South Wales for the 13th win of his career. But the first World Championship is not quite his yet.
Sebastian Ogier, how close do you get? The drama in the last stage robs you of winning the championship right now, but you still win the rally.
Yeah, I think it's the most important. Of course, we did the job and we were thinking it was okay, but let's say it's almost the same. You cannot write it on the paper now, but still, we have done another perfect rally, and it's really good for the team. A lot of points for the manufacturer side as well.
Well, what a finish. Ogier taking maximum points in the power stage, but Neuville's second place means he gets 2 points and keeps the championship alive. Just Novikov rounding off a frustrating weekend with a consolation bonus point for third. M Sports boss Malcolm Wilson sharing a moment with Jos Capito, for whom the wait for championship glory goes on.
Definitely, we will increase the gap in the Manufacturers' Championship. So, and even with the puncture of Mikko. So they say Sepp doesn't win the championship here, but it's positive on us for increasing the gap for the Manufacturers' Championship. So if I could have chosen before the rally what I want, I preferred this result.
Well, in the overall positions, that late puncture sees Hirvonen slip to third, gifting Neuville the runner-up spot, so delaying Ogier's date with destiny. The VW man did all he could, though, with a dominant 6th win of the season. Further back, Andreas Mikkelsen claiming a fine 6th place on his first drive alongside Paul Nagel. Plenty of satisfaction then back at the VW service area, but not quite the celebrations they were hoping for.
Yeah, of course, was confusion and a bit of frustration because all the weekend we were virtual champion and finally on the last kilometer Mikko gave the second place to Thierry. So yeah, we didn't expect that, and yeah, but that's the race. I mean, before the rally we knew that this situation could happen. Even if I do the best this weekend, it could miss something, and that's what happened. So I have to wait a bit more, but I mean, in my head, it's almost done.
So the all-important numbers then. Another maximum score of 28 points leaves Ogier with a lead of 83 over Neuville. One more point at Ogier's home event in France will secure the world title. Hirvonen's third place sees him move up to 4th. And in the manufacturer's title race, it's been a disappointing weekend for Citroën, but the fight is still very much alive. So Ogier and Julien Ingrassia get to spray the champagne, relishing their first victory down under, but the championship bubbly remains on ice until France, where of course we also welcome back Ogier's compatriot, the man he's on the verge of succeeding as champion, Sébastien Loeb. A tantalising duel in prospect. From me, Kevin Piper and Paul King, thanks for watching. We'll leave you with some of the highlights from a dramatic few days down under.